Have you ever faced a problem that seemed too big to defeat? Today, we will hear the incredible story of a young shepherd who defeated a terrifying giant. This is the powerful Bible story of David and Goliath. Long ago, the armies of Israel and the armies of the Philistines stood facing each other on opposite hills. Between them was a wide valley where battles were fought. Every day the Philistine army sent out their strongest warrior. His name was Goliath. Goliath was not an ordinary soldier. He was a giant of a man. The Bible says he was over 9 feet tall. His armor was heavy bronze, and he carried a massive spear. When Goliath stepped forward, the ground almost shook beneath him. He shouted across the valley to the army of Israel, "Choose a man to fight me. If he defeats me, we will serve you. But if I defeat him, you will serve us." But when the soldiers of Israel saw Goliath, they were terrified. No one was brave enough to fight him. Even King Saul, the leader of Israel, was afraid. For 40 days, Goliath came out every morning and evening to mock the army of God. Day after day, no one answered his challenge. Not far from the battlefield lived a young shepherd named David. David was the youngest son of Jesse. While his brothers were soldiers in King Saul's army, David stayed home taking care of his father's sheep. One day, Jesse asked David to take food to his brothers at the battlefield. So David packed bread and grain and traveled to the camp of Israel. When he arrived, he heard a loud voice echoing across the valley. It was Goliath again, shouting his challenge. David watched as the giant mocked the armies of Israel and insulted the name of God. The soldiers trembled with fear. David was shocked. He asked the soldiers, "Who is this Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God?" The soldiers told David about the reward the king had promised to anyone who could defeat Goliath. But David was not thinking about rewards. He was thinking about God's honor. Soon David's older brother heard him speaking and became angry. "Why are you here?" his brother said. "Go back and take care of your sheep." But David ignored the insult. He kept asking questions about the giant. Soon word reached King Saul that a young boy was willing to fight Goliath. David was brought before the king. King Saul looked at David and shook his head. "You are only a boy," Saul said, "and Goliath has been a warrior since his youth." But David answered with confidence, "My lord, I have been taking care of my father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came to attack the flock, I chased it away and rescued the sheep." He continued, "The Lord who rescued me from the lion and the bear will rescue me from this giant." King Saul was amazed by David's courage. Finally, he agreed to let David fight. Saul gave David his own armor to wear, but the armor was heavy and uncomfortable. David could barely move, so he removed it. Instead, David took his shepherd's staff, his sling, and walked down to the stream. He picked up 5 smooth stones and placed them in his pouch. Then he walked toward the giant. When Goliath saw David approaching, he laughed loudly. He looked at the small shepherd boy and felt insulted. "Am I a dog," Goliath shouted, "that you come at me with sticks?" The giant cursed David and threatened to feed his body to the birds. But David stood firm. He shouted back with courage, "You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty." David continued, "Today the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel." The giant grew furious and began marching toward David. But David did not run away. Instead, he ran toward the giant. As Goliath moved closer, David reached into his pouch and pulled out one stone. He placed the stone in his sling and began to spin it quickly. Then he released it. The stone flew through the air like lightning. It struck Goliath directly in the forehead. The giant stopped. For a moment, the battlefield was silent. Then the mighty warrior fell face down onto the ground. David had defeated the giant. The Philistine army panicked and began to run away. The army of Israel shouted with joy and chased them from the battlefield. That day, a young shepherd boy proved something powerful. You do not need to be the biggest, the strongest, or the most experienced to win your battles. When you trust in God, even the biggest giants can fall. And that is how David defeated Goliath.